Story 1. Broke, stressed, and depressed. However, I believe that all these challenges would have been intensified by raising children, so there is a small blessing in not having them. Story 2. 71 years old male, 68 years old female, married for 25 years. No regrets about not having children. I believe we would have been good parents and would have loved our children as much as anyone, but we realized the sacrifices it requires and decided against it. Story 3. I chose not to have children. My friends who didn't want children and felt pressured into having them for a number of reasons are miserable. My friends who wanted children and were able to have them are enjoying it. Those who didn't want children and chose not to have them are also thriving. I feel very content with my decision. I can't imagine my life with a child, and I'm glad my mother told me decades ago, there's nothing worse than an unwanted child. When I expressed my reluctance to have kids, I've also tried to realize that having children isn't inherently awful. People who genuinely want them and have them often excel at it, but it's not for everyone. Just because I don't want children doesn't mean that having them is a burdensome obligation. I don't need to be defined by my lack of children. It's simply not what I wanted. Story 4. Better than it would be if I had children. I am not in the best state of mind, so it would be selfish to put a child through that. Story 5. I'm 60, no kids, and no real regrets. I may occasionally think, what if? But it's rare. Given my mental state during my fertile years, I would have been an unhappy and poor parent. The world has enough damaged people, and it didn't need me adding to that population. I will die alone, but that's not scary and doesn't make me regret not becoming a parent. Story 6. Since I was 17, I was firmly convinced that I did not want to have children. Now, at 43 years old, I still believe it was the best decision ever. I have the freedom to do whatever I want without worrying about a child depending on me. Story 7. I am 30 years old, and my boyfriend is 31. We do not have any children, and I am very much on the fence about it because almost all my friends with kids are constantly exhausted and stressed. They do not make time for their partners anymore, which has caused some marital strain. I appreciate not having to find the energy to chase after a screaming toddler. I enjoy being able to sleep and nap whenever I want for as long as I want. I like having money in the bank and being able to spend it on myself. I value that my boyfriend and I do not have the added stress of a child, allowing us to come and go whenever we please. I also like my body the way it is and am terrified of it changing due to pregnancy. I recognize the beauty in having a child with the person you love and creating a family, but I also see the beauty in not having children and simply doing what you want when you want. Story 8. Pretty good. I am child-free due to infertility and failed in vitro fertilization, but I am at peace with it. Honestly, the thing that bothers me more than anything is people who insist we should go through adoption as if it is free or we have any money left after fertility treatments or that it is something my husband and I are even interested in. It is none of your business. We have some disposable income. We have dogs that are getting older, and we can afford to pay for their treatments without worrying about the cost. We can travel spontaneously. We can sleep in on the weekends if we want. We can spend an entire evening on the couch playing games on our phones. We don't have to worry about our children growing up in a world that becomes more dangerous every day. We can be the amazing aunt and uncle couple and buy noisy or messy toys. Honestly, as the days go by, there are many more things that make me say, this makes me so happy to be infertile. Then there are things that make me sad about not being a mom. Story 9. It is fine. I would be lying if I said I was not a little sad to see all my friends married with children, but it was for the best. I came from a severely dysfunctional family and refused to pass it on. Story 10. It is much easier than the lives of my friends with children. I do not mean to be rude. I went to dinner with some mother friends last night, so it is fresh in my mind, and it is not for me. I have a great time with my partner and my dogs. I live in a city with so much to do. We travel a lot. My time and schedule are my own. My apartment is calm and peaceful. I feel very grateful when I am bored. I know myself. I need a lot of downtime to be happy and sane. I have also observed children test the limits of romantic love, and it makes me sad. Most of my friends carry a lot of resentment toward their husbands. I can see many of them getting divorced down the line. My partner is my favorite person, and the idea that I might like him less because co-parenting is stressful and complicated makes me sad. With everything going on politically in my country, I would be experiencing that stress more intensely if I were worried about my children. I worry about their children, but my friends are having existential crises about having had them. Story 11. Today I slept in until 9. I'm still in my pajamas, relaxing and watching the Formula One race. Later I will watch the IndyCar race. I should probably do some laundry. I will take my dog for a walk before that. Things are good. Story 12. In our mid-40s, we are a dual-income couple without children. We enjoy traveling and spending time together, often in our pajamas reading. We regularly go to the gym, run, and hike. We have a couple of dogs, and when they pass away, we might not get more. We purchase high-quality groceries and enjoy cooking. Sometimes we simply have crackers and cheese. Overall, it's quite good. Story 13. Excellent. I wouldn't change a thing. We aren't financially constrained, and we have plenty of time to enjoy each other, our friends, and our hobbies. I know it's not for everyone, but it was the perfect life for us, and I've never regretted the decision for a single second. Story 14. Great. I just got back from a week in Mexico, where I saw my favorite band twice. I will be going to Rome and Ibiza next September for Labor Day. I spent the morning learning new therapeutic modalities and studying for my licensing exams to advance my career, while my boyfriend hikes. My partner is my perfect counterpart and my person. We both agree that having children is not for us, but we have the sweetest and most adorable puppy who is our baby. We may not be wealthy, but we are both happy, enjoy our work, and are able to travel and attend many concerts. I will be turning 40 in a couple of months, and life is good. Story 15. I am 40 years old and have a nephew and 2 cats. I cannot handle the responsibility of having children. I am still working through my trauma and would never want to pass my traumas onto the next generation. I love the idea of raising children, but it is not realistic, especially considering the cost. I barely make ends meet for myself and my cats. Children require significant financial stability. The bottom line is that I would never want to pass down trauma and debt. If I ever reach a point where these barriers no longer exist, I would consider having children only with a guaranteed partner who is equally committed and mature. However, I do not see any of these changes happening in the next 2 to 3 years. Story 16. I just ate a whole pizza and played video games for 6 hours straight on a Tuesday night. It was fantastic. Story 17. I chose that path and, honestly, it is freeing in ways I did not expect, like having time to pursue hobbies or travel spontaneously. Still, I understand why some might wonder about missing out on parenthood. Story 18. I am in my late 40s, own a home on several acres, and money is not an issue. Since my own concerns are the only ones that matter, it is much easier to make decisions like changing careers or relocating. Having seen my friends struggle to raise children in this age of social media and conflict, I prefer my situation as it is. Story 19. My life is great. I love kids and I mourn the chance to be a mother, but being a mother also prevents me from enjoying many other things. My health is not great and it affects my finances. I am relieved that neither of these impacts a child. After the recent election, I was very glad not to feel the pressure of knowing my child would inherit a possibly crumbling democracy. My life is full of love. Most of my friends have kids and are very happy to have a friend who enjoys spending time with them. I have animals I love, a partner I cherish, and an amazing community. The love that exists when you have kids does not disappear if you don't have them. Love is an infinite resource. It is there for you to give to others. Foster animals, nieces and nephews, neighbors and friends, the community, strangers in need, and children who have no one in their corner. Story 20. I chose not to have children because I didn't want the responsibility or to change the fact that I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I also simply do not like children. I do not have a motherly instinct except when it comes to pets, and if I had children, it would have made me miserable and ruined my life. I would not have the job I currently have, which I love. I would either have to give that up or would have never made it here. Friends of mine have children and often tell me how they get sick from daycare every other day and have constant diaper blowouts. Dealing with all that is just not for me. One friend has a severely autistic daughter who screams all day, and I feel so bad for her because she has contemplated suicide. Her husband, the father of the girl, divorced her and just sends money, leaving her responsible. Thankfully, there are state programs that have stepped in to help, but she is a shadow of who she once was. Of course, there are positive aspects to having children, but they are just not worth it for me. I couldn't be happier being child-free. Story 21. Very good. I notice I am able to appreciate the little things in my life so much. Waking up and enjoying my coffee at my own pace, listening to the birds outside without the noise of children. It is so peaceful. Story 22. Liberating. I never have to think about extra bills, their safety, and the whole charade that comes with parenting. Story 23. More than anything these days, I am thrilled to not have children because I cannot imagine the immense weight of guilt thinking about the world I would be leaving behind for them. Story 24. My friends with children call me Lady No Pants and speak of my life with envy. Last night, I ate wasabi snacks in my underwear while watching Star Trek at 10 p.m. Story 25. I am doing well and have no regrets about choosing not to have children. My life is fulfilling, and I am deeply grateful. One thing people who tried to convince me to have children have always said is, "But who will look after you when you get old?" My own experience caring for aging parents and the stories of caregiver burnout have convinced me that expecting children to take on the burden of care is selfish and not something I would impose on anyone else. Story 26. Fridays are my favorite days. I spend the morning going to the gym and grabbing a freshly baked pastry on the way home. I have what I call a cleansing and everything shower, as it is known, and get into warm, fresh pajamas. I sit on the sofa watching films, documentaries, or whatever takes my fancy under a warm electric blanket until my husband comes home. On Saturday and Sunday mornings, my husband and I always go for a lovely breakfast at a local coffee shop, where we talk or play chess. Then we spend the rest of the weekend relaxing, doing as much or as little as we want. The quiet, the peace, the bliss. Story 27. I am content 85% of the time. The other 15% I feel sad, like right now. I feel sad that I will never know what our child would be like, if they would have his eyes or his kindness. I will never be called mummy or have any paintings on the fridge. It hurts. I have to remind myself that these are not good enough reasons to bring a child into this world. Story 28. I am 60 years old, single, and without children. I thought I would feel lonely and sad, but between family and work, I spend a lot of time with children. My days off are filled with chores, errands, and family adventures. Not to sound boastful, but I am the happiest and most financially secure among my siblings. Additionally, 25% of my nieces and nephews have confided in me that they do not want to have kids because I make a child-free life look so enjoyable. That's like receiving an excellent grade in the course of life on how to be a good example. Story 29. I would have loved to have children, and we tried various ways to have even just one. That being said, at almost 40, I'm grateful we don't have kids to worry about. We can live our lives as we please, enjoying the good times to the fullest and enduring the harder times without the added responsibility of protecting a child from them. Financially, this situation is beneficial for us, especially considering that the current times are not ideal for raising a child. Story 30. I'm in my mid-40s, married, no kids, and pretty happy. We have significantly less stress in life than our friends with children. However, I guess the regrets may start once we are older, so cultivating a healthy social environment and strong friendships is a top priority. Story 31. I'm 39 and didn't plan to have biological children, and then I had to have a hysterectomy, so I literally can't now. There was some grieving over something that had been my choice becoming something determined for me, but I've never felt any real regrets. My mother was, let's just say, difficult, and I've spent a lot of time undoing the damage. If I had had a child, I'm not sure I could have, and I likely would have passed that damage on. Some people love being parents, and I applaud them, but I've always been more comfortable with the aunt role. Plus, disposable income. Story 32. You don't miss what you never had, so I can't say for sure, but I know I never had the desire to have a child. I believe children deserve parents who truly wanted them. I'm grateful to be an aunt to some of my friends' kids because they are wonderful. However, I am content that I didn't have any of my own. Story 33. We have more disposable income and have been able to grow our careers faster than expected. We can do what we want when we want, enjoying multiple amazing vacations each year. We do not experience the constant sickness that our friends with children do. We are very happy not to have kids. In our 30s, we considered having children, but it did not happen, and we now see it as a blessing. When we honestly talk to our friends, more than half of them express regret about having children, often noting that one partner usually pressures the other regarding the decision. Story 34. My husband and I chose not to have children for many reasons. We opted for a life where we are accompanied everywhere by two adorable, fluffy, four-pawed dogs who take up half our bed. We wouldn't have it any other way. We live comfortably with our dogs in a beautiful apartment close to the city center. We love our peaceful weekends, relative freedom, and the choice to do whatever we wish in our free time. We often hear our neighbors dealing with their preteen children, and one of them has a terrible temper. I constantly feel grateful that I never have to deal with that. Story 35. Without the age of commenters, it is hard to gauge the validity of the happiness most people express. Saying, I have no children and I am happy is shallow at 22, but it carries a much deeper meaning at 72. Story 36. I chose not to have children and now cannot. I have no regrets. My life is quite good, and I'm not sure I would have made it through the tough times if I had a child depending on me. Story 37. We both watch from a distance as our friends with children struggle, whether financially, emotionally, or due to fatigue. It is hardly a glowing endorsement when people attempt to persuade you to start a family of your own. I genuinely believe that those trying to convince you are attempting to draw you into their own difficult reality. Story 38. I see how all my friends who have had children are just sort of robotic shells of the people they used to be, and it makes me sad to see. Looking through old photo albums from before they had kids, there was a light in their eyes that is not there anymore. They used to have adventurous personalities, interesting passions and hobbies, and unique identities of their own. Now all they do is parent constantly. I don't know why anyone would choose to live that way. I'm glad I could learn from their experiences before making the same choice. Story 39. I feel relieved I don't have kids. I'm in my mid-50s now and have seen my family suffer so much stress through their children. I can go out whenever I want. My money is my own. It's a sense of freedom. Story 40. I enjoy having my own space, and being around kids makes me anxious. However, I absolutely love being an aunt because I get the joy of spending time with little ones, and then they go home at the end of the day. Story 41. I'm going to take a nap soon. I love my nieces, and that fulfilled any small need. My husband and I lead a very free and comfortable life. I just didn't have the capacity to raise a child. I knew at a young age. Story 42. Zero regrets. I would not be able to handle the future prospects of any children given the state of the planet. Story 43. It was the best decision I had ever made in not having children. Within the first year of my marriage, I discovered that my ex was addicted to pornography. We eventually divorced after 10 years when I found pictures of him with his half-sister. This world is too dangerous and dysfunctional to bring a life into. I have been doing rescue work and love it. No regrets. Story 44. Incredible. I have time to myself to pursue my interests, and my husband and I can plan spontaneous trips without hesitation. Story 45. I am about to turn 35, and my life is good. Personally, I did not want to pass on any of my problems to my children. Now, with the political climate and uncertainty about the future, I feel a sense of relief. Story 46. I'm 40 years old with no children. Traveling is enjoyable. All the money I earn is mine, and my house stays relatively clean, despite having dogs that shed fur everywhere. I can sleep when I want without being interrupted by noise or other disturbances. I love children and dote on my niece and nephew as if they were my own. I also care for the kids in my neighborhood, but I do not regret my decision at all. Story 47. I am curious about how to address individuals who flood their work communication channels with pictures and videos of their children engaged in activities that seem trivial. Not every coworker is interested in your child's first ski trip or sixth birthday celebration. Consider keeping that to yourself or creating a separate communication group to share such updates. Story 48. We tried in vitro fertilization and experienced 3 miscarriages. Now at 43, considering the state of the world, I wonder, why did I try so hard? This is great. Life is so good. Story 49. My wife and I are a double income, no kids couple by choice, and we could not be happier with our decision. Years of observation have led me to the conclusion that the happiest people in life are couples who do not have children. We know many people who have children and a handful of couples like us who do not. While the people with children might be happy, there is often a constant presence of stress, exhaustion, financial worries, or a combination of these challenges. In contrast, the double income, no kids couples are completely relaxed. They have time to pursue hobbies, resources to enjoy beach resorts, and the freedom to sleep in as long as they want on weekends. I am entirely happy with our decision to remain child-free and have no regrets. To be completely honest, if my wife were to become accidentally pregnant, we would both be absolutely devastated. Story 50. We made a choice and are now 54 and 53 years old, and we truly love it. We have experienced a freedom that others only dream of. Meanwhile, our married friends are facing the challenges of their children leaving home, and they feel they have nothing in common anymore. Their shared experiences have mostly revolved around raising their kids. In contrast, we simply need to arrange care for our dogs and can do whatever we want. Story 51. It's amazing. More freedom, more money, more fun, and lots of travel. I moved from the United States to Sweden because I could, but I still have a place in the United States as well. For those parents who ask who will take care of them when they are old, the answer is my money. There's no guarantee that your children will want to take care of you when the time comes. Story 52. A bit sad. We couldn't have one of our own and lost the one we had. We have adjusted to it and are moving on. Life continues. Sometimes I am glad we don't have any, considering the collapse of society and the recession. Story 53. I do what I want when I want. I go on trips without hesitation, attend as many concerts as I desire, and spend my money on myself. It's wonderful. Story 54. Much better than if I had children. It's peaceful and I have money, not because I earn a lot, but because raising a child in my country is very expensive. I can do what I want in my free time. I can't believe people give all this up for the hassle and drama of raising children. Story 55. I lost my job, so I am forced to live with my parents. Thank you, federal government. At least I don't have to worry about paying for childcare. Story 56. State of the world aside, it's great. I have a podcast about it. Lately, it's been focused on the state of the world, but mainly on recognizing and freeing ourselves from the toxic cultural norms we grew up with so we can design our best lives instead. One of these toxic expectations is that everyone should have children. That's how you end up with a bunch of unhappy adults. Story 57. A 55-year-old man is married to a phenomenal 49-year-old man. Life is mostly good. We can watch the world deteriorate without worrying that our children are in for tough times, though we do strive to have the smallest ecological footprint possible. We spend our time brushing our horses, petting our cats, or kayaking in the river, awaiting release from the guilt of being affluent consumers. Story 58. I chose not to have children for many reasons. The more I spend time with people who have children, the more confident I am about my decision. I enjoy children in small doses and I get to be the cool aunt, experiencing all the fun, but it feels good to return to a quiet and peaceful home after a day in their company. There are also the obvious advantages, such as being free to do whatever I like, traveling whenever I wish, and not being financially or otherwise responsible for another person. Story 59. I am truly happy for my friends who are getting married and having children. I am 32 years old, single, and live with my cat. I attend weddings and baby showers frequently. However, I am not jealous or spiteful. I have never been interested in having kids. I would love to have a partner, but not necessarily children. Story 60. I feel unfulfilled. I miss being a big brother, and all my siblings are adults now. I'm stuck here without a child of my own. Story 61. I want to have children, but given the current political climate, I am leaning more towards not wanting any due to concerns about bringing another person into the chaos that is happening. I would love to be a parent, though. Life is quiet right now. I am free to do what I want. Even though I am a responsible adult, I worry about society falling apart and dislike the thought that if things go wrong for me, a little life might be affected as well. Story 62. Absolutely incredible. I can wake up whenever I want, don't have to do chores if I'm not feeling it that day, take a 3-hour nap if I feel like it, and just do whatever I feel like doing or not doing that day. I don't have to worry about my expenses as much and can actually buy the things I want. I don't have to worry about paying for my children's education because, with the cost of higher education these days, if you have kids and don't plan on helping them pay for most of it, that's irresponsible. The only part that might be a bummer is the likelihood of dying alone, but that's a small price to pay in comparison. Story 63. Pretty great, honestly. The older I get, the thought of having children becomes scary. I approach dating differently than most because I truly do not want them, and the last thing I need is an unexpected pregnancy. Story 64. I love my life. I never wanted children, except for a brief moment after breaking up with a boyfriend who did. I have more money, more freedom, and less stress. I love my friends' children and my godchildren, so I feel blessed to have the best of both worlds. Story 65. My 30s are very similar to my 20s, except I have money now. I do feel a little sad around the holidays, though. Story 66. It's 10:48 a.m. I'm sitting cross-legged on the couch in my robe, waiting for an Italian sandwich to heat up in the oven while enjoying a delicious cup of coffee and reading Reddit. Life is good. Story 67. I don't have children and I just turned 48. My long-term partner of 20 years never wanted children, and I could have gone either way. I was told repeatedly that I would regret not having them, but then I met a couple who was about 15 years older than us. They didn't have children and traveled a lot. That convinced me. I now travel frequently, taking maybe 3 or 4 big trips a year, along with many shorter trips like last-minute flights to Mexico or Canada for the weekend, since I am based in the United States. I spend several weeks either road tripping across the continent or flying to Asia or Europe. Our jobs are extremely flexible, allowing us to work remotely. Basically, without children, we have more money to spend on ourselves and our family. We each have nieces and nephews, so we do have children in our lives, just not all the time. Story 68. I am 27 years old and my partner is 28. We do not have children and we have agreed not to have any unless we are in a financial situation where we can comfortably raise a child. Neither of us is keen on having kids. My mother occasionally reminds me that my biological clock is ticking, but honestly, I do not think I want to experience pregnancy myself. Maybe I will consider adoption. Who knows what the future will bring? I am mostly happy now and I want to focus on my career first. Story 69. I don't have my own children, but my brothers do, and I've been the fun uncle they spend time with. I feel like I'm experiencing the best part of having children without actually having them. Story 70. A 39-year-old married woman got married at age 35, and it just hasn't worked out for us, which is fine. We weren't strongly committed either way. Life is good, but maybe a little boring sometimes. I'm not sure if that is good or bad. Now that I understand more about my sensory issues, I'm somewhat glad I don't have a child because I'm not sure I could handle it. Sometimes I feel sad because I grew up with a larger extended family, and now my family seems quite small. It's alarming to see the United States federal government seemingly collapsing, along with the challenge of climate change. Story 71. Relieved. It was horrible at the time due to infertility, but 20 years later I'm grateful. I care for my elderly alcoholic mother, so having children of any age would be extremely difficult for me at this point. I also lost my husband when I was 37, so only having to deal with my own grief and anger was a huge blessing. Story 72. Just returned from a week in Hawaii. I live in the mountains with two rescue dogs that bring me immense joy. Life is good. If I had children, I would be back in the Midwest, one of the few places I could afford to provide them with a good life, sports, college, and more. Estimated age. My partner and I are in our mid-40s. Story 73. Fantastic holiday. I can indulge in expensive hobbies without the worry of things getting broken, like smashed TVs. I always have a great sleep and often get carded, despite being almost 40, while people with kids in their 20s often look older than me. I never have to wake up early or deal with cleaning or days off due to a sick child, and I don't have to handle embarrassing tantrums. There is no fear of my kids getting bullied. I don't need to plan my life around another person and can be as spontaneous as I want. It's wonderful to have a few cats to cuddle and play with, who basically take care of themselves, which is far better than having children. 11 out of 10 would recommend not having kids. Story 74. Honestly, it's probably better. We're only 27, so there's plenty of time, but the majority of our friends from high school already have children aged 1 to 7 and are often quite tied down. We plan to enjoy our 20s and the first few years of our 30s before we try to have kids. We want to complete most of our traveling without the responsibilities of children. Story 75. It's good. I'm 28, and I am really focusing on bettering myself in my life. I enjoy the freedom and peace so much, but I hope that one day I may have some children. Story 76. There are times I can barely afford to support myself. I cannot imagine being responsible for a child. I have a dog with intermittent health issues, and that is enough for me. Story 77. Excellent. I just spent a considerable amount on a set of books I wanted. I managed to sleep at irregular times over the weekend to properly rest after my work. I have no concerns that the evening gaming session with my husband will be interrupted by our child's unexpected vomiting or any other issues. Story 78. I look at all my friends who have children, and I feel for the lives they believe they were meant to create but now feel trapped in. Story 79. Doing great. I'm not like other teens. I'm 49. I've never wanted children. In my 20s, I recall my peers starting to have kids, and I thought, how? I can barely take care of myself. Not that I think anyone should use Chuck Palahniuk's characters as role models, but I often think of the line, I'm a 30-year-old boy, which is a little different in the novel. I was probably 23 when I read it, and just a couple of years older when the film came out. I've adapted it and sometimes say, I've got no business having kids. I'm a 50-year-old boy. Story 80. I am child-free by choice. I will be able to retire before 60. I sleep 7 to 9 hours every night. I travel frequently. My career has been steadily advancing, and I have no debt. Story 81. Pretty good. I live alone with my cat. I eat out several times a week, sleep in on the weekends, and I just made a down payment on a Resident Evil 4 figurine. I wouldn't change it for anything. Story 82. Child-free by choice. Thriving. I am on track to pay off my mortgage early and travel more. I enjoy going on holidays and attending festivals as much as I can. I am enjoying my hobbies. Absolutely nothing about the parenting experience that I see others having looks appealing to me, and I thank my lucky stars that I didn't get drawn in. Those who did get drawn in don't seem happy to me. Story 83. Every day is full of joy and new adventures. My wife and I have been together for 20 years and are child-free by choice. We have job security, enjoyable hobbies, and close friends and family. Even though many people say we are in a perfect situation to raise children, we are thankful that we resisted that pressure. Story 84. At 35 and childless, I have watched many friends have children, and our friendships have faded because they focus entirely on their offspring. I am grateful I don't have to give up the things I love for a thankless and exhausting existence. No, thank you. Story 85. No matter how hard life gets, it would be harder with children. Their lives would be difficult, and they would also have to endure the consequences of previous generations harming the planet. I am content with my decision. I am only 35, so things could go very badly, and I could still have a child, but I am not planning on it. Story 86. I broke up with my longtime boyfriend in October 2019. Since we didn't have children or own property together, it was a swift and decisive separation. I literally bought him a one-way ticket back to his mother's house across the country. I missed having to quarantine with him by mere months. Since then, I've been able to enjoy many new things and feel like I got a second lease on life. I've traveled, dated, adopted dogs, moved to a new city, hosted parties, taken up new hobbies, made new friends, and more. If we had children together, I would be tied to my ex for life. I see friends with children go through divorce, and it's a whole different experience. The continued interaction with their ex and the constant reminder of their past relationship seems to make it a much more difficult situation. I decided early in life that I didn't want to bear and raise a child. I disliked being a child and couldn't imagine forcing that experience on anyone else. That being said, I love children. I enjoy being an aunt, babysitting, and hanging out with young people. I just knew I didn't want to raise one or ever be pregnant. I'm happy with my choice, but my current partner and I have discussed the possibility of becoming foster parents, especially to older children, so we can help them transition out of the system and into young adulthood. Not right now, but in the next 5 to 10 years. Story 87. I am 20 years old and infertile due to my cancer treatment. I never wanted children, but when this subject comes up, I feel alone and downcast. When I don't think about it, I feel okay. I also dislike seeing people with more than 4 children. I find it pointless to have that many, since it's out of my control and I will never be able to have children who share my genetics. It can make me uncomfortable at times. Story 88. I can do whatever I want whenever I want and don't have to worry about a child. I will want one in the future, but honestly, just one. Story 89. I am 39 years old, single and child-free. I love my life. I have freedom, mobility, financial independence, and a successful career. I can focus on self-care and health, and I am planning for my future in any way I want. Given the current state of society and uncertain economic times, along with the decreasing emphasis on education for future generations, I feel incredibly blessed not to have children to worry about. I do not know a single person in my life who is actually in a happy marriage. My friends seem miserable, either struggling in their marriages or trying to navigate life as single parents. I feel really sad for them. Their lives are not easy. Story 90. I wish these threads would be more specific about people's age in the replies. It is probably more enjoyable not having children in your 30s than in your 50s. Story 91. I am working on improving my mental health and financial situation since I live paycheck to paycheck and want to break that cycle. I am focusing on my goals and passions to explore new opportunities. Additionally, I am in a fulfilling relationship with a man who shares my preference for not having children. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.